It's property tax season here in Texas, and if you're a homeowner or a real estate investor anywhere from Cedar Park to Hutto to Georgetown, you probably just got something in the mail that made your stomach drop just a little, or maybe even gave you a pleasant surprise for once. And I'm talking about your 2026 property appraisal notice from the CAD, your County Appraisal District. So today I want to walk through what I'm actually seeing in Central Texas right now in 2026, how to think about whether your CAD values make sense, and probably most importantly, why most homeowners, especially investors and out of town owners, hire property tax protest companies is the move I personally lean towards. And a quick note up front. I'm a realtor. I'm a real estate agent. I'm not a tax professional. I'm not a licensed property tax consultant. Nothing in this video is tax advice. What I can do is talk about the local real estate market, what it's actually looking like right now, because that's my job every day, and to share some general information about how the process of protesting works. So let's get into it. The market reality in 2026. So let's set the stage. Central Texas went through a wild run from 2020 to 2022. And I'm sure most of you remember what happened during 2020 to 2022. Prices in towns like Hutto, Leander, Liberty Hill, Pflugerville, Cedar Park, Round Rock, they all went up 40, 50, and in some cases 60% in about 2 years. And the county appraisal districts, understandably, followed that. Assessed values climbed and climbed fast. Then 2023 happened. Rates went up, the market cooled, and we've been in a very different environment ever since. And what I'm seeing in 2026, and this data I pull every week as part of my job, is that the market is essentially flat to slightly soft in some of our submarkets. Not crashing, not falling off a cliff, just flat. Homes are sitting on the market longer, sellers are making concessions, and a lot of neighborhood sales today look a lot like sales prices from about 2 or 3 years ago. So here's an example I was working on recently. A 4-bedroom home, 2-story in Hutto, built in 2021. Looking at comparable homes, same bed count, same building area, same general area, the 2026 median closed sales price in that area around $370, right? Meanwhile, the county appraisal district had the same property that I was looking at was valued at $395, 246 to be exact. But that's what they had it valued for 2026. Now, to the CAD's credit, that's actually down about $53,000 from the prior year. So they're acknowledging the softening. But the question every homeowner should be asking is, does the CAD number actually match what's happening now on the ground today? The CAD is the expert, and that's the important point to start from. So I'd like to be really fair here because I think a lot of noise online about a county appraisal gets framed as the bad guys, and that's not my take. The county appraisal districts, WillCAD in Williamson County, TCAD in Travis County, HCAD, Harris County, Hayes County, all of them are staffed by licensed appraisers. They are the experts. They are doing mass appraisals on tens of thousands of properties every single year. And they use sophisticated models to do that. So when I look at a CAD value, I start from the assumption that they know what they're doing. They have access to the data. They have trained staff. They follow a legal methodology. But, and this is the key point, mass appraisal is, by definition, not individual appraisal. They're not walking into your property. They're not looking at your specific floor plan, your specific lot, your specific condition. They're applying models across neighborhoods, and models are going to get some properties right and some properties wrong. That's just the nature of it. And in Texas, we have another wrinkle. Texas is a non-mandatory disclosure state, meaning sales prices are not public record. The CAD has to estimate market values without knowing what exactly the home sold for. They get data, but it's not comprehensive sales data from the MLS. So there is a legitimate built-in gap information. And that's actually a big part of why the protest process exists in the first place. The legislator built in protest rights because they understood the system isn't perfect. So framing it, I'd encourage homeowners to not use the CAD is wrong and I need to fight them, right? It's the CAD is doing mass appraisals with incomplete data on my property, and I have the right to present additional information that might refine their number for my specific property. That's a big difference of mindset when you're going in to speak with them. And before anybody starts thinking about property values and comps and all of that, there's one step every single homeowner should do first, and it costs you nothing. Verify that the CAD actually has all the right information about your property on file. Because here's the thing. The CAD is valuing your property based on a record that the record is built from builder plans, permits, field visits, aerial imagery, and lots of other different sources. And sometimes the records have errors. I've seen it plenty of times, and if the record is wrong, the value is wrong, no matter how good the CAD's methodology is. So here are some quick tips. Pull up your property on your county appraisal district website, whether that's wcad.org, wilcad.org for Williamson County, traviscounty.org for Travis County, so on and so forth. Every county has a public record that you can search with. Find your property, open it up, the detail page, and go through it line by line. First, square footage. This is the big one. For a two-story home, the CAD tracks each floor as its separate line item. You'll see something like main area for first floor, or second floor for upstairs, and then a separate entry for the garage and porches. And it's really important point for a lot of people miss. The upstairs is almost never the same size as the downstairs. On most Texas two-stories, the second floor is significantly smaller than the first, sometimes only 30 or 40% of the first floor, because there's nothing built above the garage typically, or you have an open foyer or vaulted ceilings that doesn't have a living space above them. So don't freak out if your upstairs number looks smaller. Should be. And what you can do to compare each line item with? First floor, second floor, garage, porches against your builder's original floor plan, if you have it, or against the appraisal that was done when you bought the home. If anything is off by more than a few percentage points, it's worth flagging. Second, the basics. Bedroom count, bathroom count, year built, number of stories, garage size. These should match what's on the ground. I've seen CAD records that had a three bathroom home listed as a two bath, or had the wrong year built, or had a two-car garage listed as a three-car. These things affect the value. Third, lot size and the lot features. your lot size on the CAD record should match your survey. If you're on a premium lot, say a corner or a cul-de-sac or a green belt, the CAD may have already taken this information and baked it into the premium into the land value. And you want to know if they did. So pull up a few neighbors on similar lots. It's not hard to do. Drive around the neighborhood and see if your land value is in line with theirs. Fourth, features that don't belong. Sometimes CAD has things listed on the house that doesn't actually have. Maybe a pool that was filled in, a finished bonus room that's actually unfinished storage, a covered patio that's just a slab, an outbuilding that was torn down. All these things inflate value. Read through the improvements list carefully and flag anything that doesn't match. Fifth, missing condition notes. The CAD generally assumes average condition unless they know otherwise. If your home has known issues, roof nearing end of life, maybe, foundation repairs, hail damage, HVAC on borrowed time, that's not going to be on their records. It doesn't have to be, but it's relevant if you're making a case. And here's some good news. If you find an error, you don't necessarily need to file a formal protest to correct it. Most CADs have a process to request a record correction directly, either through their online portal, by email, by phone. Start there. Fix the underlying record first. And then, if the value still seems off, after the correction, that's when you start thinking about a protest. Now, one more really important thing is that where I want to put my realtor hat on for a minute, because I see this happen all the time about this time of the year, and it's worth understanding before you do it. A lot of homeowners, when they're getting ready to protest, they'll call up their favorite realtor, their real estate agent, maybe the one who sold them the house, maybe a friend, maybe somebody they follow on Instagram or YouTube, and say, hey, can you pull me some closed sales in my neighborhood? I want to use them for my protest. And most realtors, we're really nice people and we want to help. It's what we do. We will run the CMA, the comparative market analysis, pull the closed comps, and send it over, and you're off to the races, right? It's done all the time. But here's the problem. Texas is a non-disclosure state. Sales prices are not public record. That's the whole reason the CAD has incomplete data to begin with. The MLS, the multiple listing service where closed sales prices live, is not public data. It's restricted to licensed agents under subscriber agreement. And it's one of the reasons that this agreement exists is to protect the privacy of buyers and sellers who've closed on those homes. So when you take those closed sale data from the MLS and you submit it to the county appraisal district as part of your protest, you're putting that data into the public record. Protest evidence becomes part of the public record. The CAD now has those sales prices, and more importantly, they can use them going forward, not just for your property, but to inform their valuations of other properties in the same neighborhood. Think about that and what that means. Your neighbor, maybe somebody that just bought the house next door, maybe last year, they have a closed sale price, which is private information in the multiple listing service, and you just handed to the tax appraisal district the data. And the next year, the CAD is valuing their home using that information and using that sales price against them. That neighbor's probably not going to be thrilled about it when they figure out what happened. And the realtor who pulled the data and sent it over Well, they just compromise the client's privacy to help a client save a few $100 on their taxes, possibly. And that's really a tough position to be as an agent to be put in. And honestly, a lot of agents don't think it all the way through and the implications before they hit send. So, what should you do instead? And you got a couple of options. One, and this is the biggest one, and the reason I keep coming back to this recommendation, hire a licensed property tax company. They have their own sources of data, they know what's admissible, they know how to handle all of this, so you don't have to worry about compromising anyone's privacy or putting a realtor into an awkward spot, right? Two, and one thing that people really don't understand and they kind of miss it, lean on the unequal appraisal. You have two options when you appraise: value or the unequal appraisal argument. And I'll talk about this in a minute, which uses assessed values of your neighbors rather than sales prices. Assessed values are public record on the CAD, and you can look them up all day long, and nobody's privacy is affected. Three, if you want to, if you do want market data, ask for an aggregate information. What I've done with my clients is I can tell you the median sales price in your area for the specific property without naming addresses or specific sales prices. And that's a lot safer for everybody. Bottom line, don't put your realtor in a position of having to choose between helping you and putting another client at risk. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to the other homeowners. And there are a lot better ways to get what you need. Should you protest? So you've looked at your notice and you may feel something is off. Should you actually file a protest? And here's my honest take. As someone who watches the market every single day, if you believe your value is off, even by a few $1,000s, it's almost always worth at least filing. The deadline in Texas is typically May 15th or 30 days from the date of your notice, whichever is later. Filing itself costs you nothing. You can do it online through your CAD's portal in about 10 minutes. What I'd caution against is treating the protest like a DIY project. If you don't have the time, the data access, or the appetite for it, and this is where, honestly, I think most homeowners are better served by hiring a specialist, which I'll get into in a second. The process typically goes like this. You file the protest, the CAD reviews it, and usually offers what's called an informal meeting with one of their appraisers, either in person, by phone, or through the online portal. Most reductions, and this is an important point, most reductions actually happen at the informal meeting, not the formal appraisal review board hearing. And if you can't reach a resolution informally, then you go to the ARB, the Appraisal Review Board, which is a panel of citizens who hear evidence from both sides and make a decision. It's not in an adversarial in any way people might imagine. The CAD appraisers I've interacted with are professional. They're being reasonable. And if you bring them actual data, they will engage with it. But here's the thing. If you bring in actual data, you just can't show up and say, my taxes are too high. That's not going to work. So why do I usually recommend a protest company? So this brings me to the part where I really want to spend some time on, because I think this is where a lot of homeowners leave money on the table, honestly. For most people, and I'd say especially for investors and out-of-state out of area owners, for anyone with multiple properties or anyone who just doesn't want this on their plate. Hiring a property tax company, in my experience, is the best move. And here's why. First, they work on a contingency. The companies that I'm familiar with in Central Texas, firms like Texas Tax Pro, Five Stone, O'Connor, and there are others. I think Ownwell is another one that's recently come into the area. They typically charge a fee, a percentage of your first year tax savings. If they don't save you any money, you don't have to pay them anything. Your downside is zero. And that's a really important structure because it means that their incentives are aligned with yours. They only make money if they actually reduce your bill. And second, they do this for a living. Right? It's just their job. These companies protest thousands of properties every single year. They know the appraisers at the CAD. They know the appraisal board members. They know which arguments tend to work in which counties, which comps will be accepted, how to structure an unequal appraisal analysis. This is institutional knowledge you and I just don't have as one-off protesters. We just don't. Third, they have all the right data access and they know how to use it properly. Licensed property tax consultants have subscriber agreements and the protest specific data sources that let them use closed sale data in a compliant way, which, to go back to what I was saying earlier, is something individual homeowners and their realtors should not be doing on their own. The protest companies operate within a framework built exactly for this purpose. And fourth, and this is one that matters to most of my investor clients, they handle everything. You sign an authorization form, it's usually a one-page document, and then they file the protest, prepare the evidence, attend the informal meeting, attend the ARB hearing, and it goes that far, if it goes that far. You don't have to take time off work. You don't have to sit on hold with the CAD. You don't have to learn a new process. For your rental property owners who live an hour away or in another state, this is enormous. The time saving alone is worth the fee. Fifth, they tend to renew yearly. Most of these companies will automatically protest for you every single year once you sign up. And because the CAD compounds value, increases over time, consistent year over year protesting compounds your savings the same way. Now, a couple of honest caveats. These companies are not magicians. If your CAD value is already reasonable, they're not going to be able to conjure a reduction out of thin air. The level of attention any individual property gets will vary. Some firms are more boutique and hands-on, and others are higher volume. So shop around. Ask how they handle informal versus ARB hearings. Ask what their average reduction is. Read reviews. Treat it like hiring any other profession. But the bottom line is this. For the vast majority of Central Texas, homeowners and almost every real estate investor I work with, the math favors hiring a specialist. You pay nothing, or maybe very little, if they don't save you any money. And if they do, you keep the majority of the savings and you get your time back. Isn't that awesome? Some practical tips before you decide. All right, so these are some things that you need to maybe consider before you make a decision. If you decide to protest on your own, request the CAD's evidence packet in advance. You have the right to see the comparable homes and the methodology they're using to support your value. And getting that ahead of time lets you build specific rebuttals. Don't walk into the hearing blind. If you're hiring a company, do it early in the season. All the good firms fill up fast. The deadlines are non-negotiable. Google Williamson County property tax protest or whatever county you're in and read some reviews and make some calls. Either way, take photos. If there's any deferred maintenance, roof wear, hail exposure from last year's storms, we've had a couple doozies here in Central Texas, foundation issues, drainage problems, document it. Those photos support downward adjustments in Central Texas. And with the 2024 and the 2025 hail season we had, this is specifically relevant. And keep your records, your closing disclosures from when you bought the home, any appraisals you've done since. That would be like a refinance, repairs, invoices, your current lease if there's a rental. All this can be used as supporting evidence. All right, before I wrap, I want to leave you with one last thought. And honestly, this might be the most important thing I say in the entire video. Remember, the CAD is only one half of the equation on your tax bill. The appraised value is one half. The other half is the tax rate. The tax rate is set by people who elect, and the bonds and the propositions you vote on. Your city council, your county commissioners, your school board, your MUDs, your ESDs, your community college districts, every one of those entities set their own rate and their own budget. And on those rates all stack up together, equaling one. And on a property that we have here, it ranges in Central Texas, some, in the low, high ones to the mid threes. That's a very large dollars. So every dollar of the appraised value gets multiplied by the number to produce your actual bill. So here's the thing that drives me crazy. Budget season is happening right now and running through the summer. City budgets, workshops, county budget hearings, school district budget meetings. These are all public meetings. They're on the calendar. Anybody can show up. Anybody can speak. And almost nobody does. You'll have a room set up for 50 people and 4 people in it. Meanwhile, protest season rolls around and suddenly everybody's fired up about the tax bill and they're filling up the county appraisal district, right? If we had the same number who file protests every year show up to their city and county budget meetings, we would be having maybe a completely different conversation about property taxes in Texas. The protest fights over your value. The budget meeting is where the rates get decided, and the rate is the multiplier. You can win your protest and still get a bigger bill because the rate went up. Or conversely, you can lose on your protest and pay less because the rate came down. So here is what I'd ask. Pull up your calendars for your city, for your county, for your school district, and for other taxing entities, and find the budget workshops and the rate setting hearings and put them on your schedule. Show up, or at a minimum, pay attention to who you're voting for and what bonds you're approving, because every one of those is a line on your tax bill for years to come. All right, that's a lot of information, and by that is a really full picture for 2026 market and a short version, everything you need to know about your property data and the CAD, hiring a specialist to protest your value, keep closed sale data out of the public record, and more importantly, show up for the other half of the equation. If you have questions about your property or the market in general or your neighborhood, reach out to me, that's part of what I can help with as a realtor. And for the protest itself, foreclosed data, I'll always point you to a licensed protest professional. And for the budget side, well, that's all on us as homeowners and voters. If this was useful, give it a like, subscribe for more Central Texas real estate content, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.